and let us all do we can to build a better future.
As you all know, recently, this has happened, but the British High Court has accepted the U.S. request to extradite Julian Assange for trial. I just want to remind everyone that last year when Trump was president, the British court wasn't going to do that because the judge at the time deemed that the U.S. prison system would be detrimental to Julian Assange's health. Again, this man has been separated from his friends and family for a very long time. He has suffered enough. He's been tortured. He's been put into isolation. He didn't do anything wrong. He's a journalist that covered a story that put to shame all of corporate media, that shined a light on the hypocrisy of the global establishment. Julian Assange is a hero, and now he's going to trial for it. We got a couple of videos from the good friend of the show, Case Study QB. These videos were taken just before the ruling was made, but I will ask my colleague Faze if we could pull up the first video. We're hearing from good old Morning Joe about the UK High Court. Assange can be extradited to the U.S. So let's hear what good old Morning Joe has to say, the hypocrite himself.
Claire McCaskill, there is a lot of smoke surrounding Julian Assange. Of course, there were the charges in Sweden that were subsequently dropped. There is the hacking and his vendetta against Hillary Clinton. There's information that was released that showed military malfeasance by the United States. But, you know, it's so interesting that it used to be the far left who opposed George W. Bush's wars in Afghanistan and Iraq who made this guy a hero under the guise of the First Amendment. And then when he started leaking information against Hillary Clinton, it became the Trump right that suddenly held Julian Assange. So but let's just forget the politics of this. As a prosecutor, you're given this case, and you've got a guy who's stolen thousands of documents.
No. Pause it right here. Pause it right here. He didn't steal anything. These documents were leaked, and Julian Assange was not part of that. And mind you, the key witness that was speaking out against Julian Assange that the court used admitted that he lied. That's the thing that people are tending to forget. Assange didn't do some spy operation. That stuff was given out, leaked out. And Assange, being the journalist that he is, following one of the key rules of journalism, he's not going to leak out his source. That's why he's being tortured. He's not going to give away his source. He's protecting them. You know, Julian Assange set a standard for journalistic integrity. And there's been a lot of people that have been standing in solidarity with Julian Assange. And I want to name these great individuals who've been covering the work of Julian Assange and the case that he's been going through. And before we play the rest of the video, shout out to Taylor Hudak, shout out to the entire Mikasu Casa network, shout out to Convo Couch, Slow News Day, Graham Elwood, Glenn Greenwald, Aaron Mate, the team at the Gray Zone, Jimmy Dore, Lee Camp, and Frank Analysis, Jackson Hinkle, and so many others. Julian Assange didn't steal anything. He isn't a spy master. He's a journalist, a publisher. Big difference. Just had to correct the record there because Morning Joe obviously isn't doing his homework. Let's play the rest of the video if we can.
Classified national security documents, release them to the world, and in so doing, put the lives of U.S. troops, of people who were working with the United States, allies, collaborators in war zones, in the gravest of danger. Under any scenario, you take politics out of it, and this is an open and shut case. This is not the Pentagon Papers. This wasn't Times editors rifling through documents, figuring out what could be released and what couldn't be released and explaining it. This was a guy that got stolen documents and gave it to the world.
This is a pretty simple case. It's very straightforward. And the beauty of a trial, Joe, is that you narrow all of the extraneous stuff to the charges that are there against the defendant. And the charges in this case are that he was trying to hack into our military information that protects not just our country.
Pause it. Because obviously, again, this is the same lady who lost her election some time ago that, again, corporate media is getting advice from. It was also proven as well that WikiLeaks, when as soon as they released this information, that, Julian Assange, that when that information was released, it wasn't detrimental to intelligence sources at all. In fact, what it did was shine a light on war crimes that were being committed. Innocent civilians, journalists, first responders who were being hurt. War crimes. We shined a light on it. Julian Assange shined a light on it. And corporate media was embarrassed because corporate media will never cover this story. They won't cover war crimes committed by the United States. Oh, and by the way, too, the political establishment was embarrassed, too, because their crimes were brought to light. Again, Julian Assange didn't do this. He's not a thief. He's not some hacker. He's not some spy master. He's a journalist. And when a story is presented, like the Pentagon Papers, you release it. Too bad we don't have any lawmakers, who have the courage to, acknowledge that these are some serious, that what Julian Assange did was very important for the public to know. Too bad that Mike Gravel's not around, because he stood with the Pentagon Papers. He was in support of them. Oh, wait, one other thing, too. Have we heard anything about from Bernie Sanders or AOC or the progressives about what's happening to Julian Assange? Probably not. Let's play the rest of the video.
Women in uniform around the world. This is really serious stuff. Forget about the politics. The fact that both the right and the left don't like Julian Assange or love Julian Assange, depending on the circumstances.
Okay, hold on. There's a little bit more to that because obviously she's not understanding the bigger picture. While we pull up the second video from Case Study QB, and again, be sure to support Case Study QB because Twitter is censoring his page, which is BS, by the way. But he's doing some fantastic work, and be sure to support his channel on YouTube and on Odyssey as well. Let's play the rest of this video if we can.
Circumstances is being talked about. That should tell you all you need to know. This is really a guy who just violated the law. And, I kind of laugh. If their fight against extradition is that they're worried about his safety in prison, they really don't have perspective on this. There are lots and lots of people who go to federal prison who have done really worse things than Julian Assange, and they are protected in prison. I don't think he needs to worry about whether or not he'll be safe in prison. This is really just a smokescreen to try to keep him from ever being accountable for the rule of law. We started talking about Trump being accountable. This is a really important piece for the American rule of law to get him back to the United States and face these charges.
He could be in an American courtroom soon. Still ahead.
Yeah. Okay, let's pause that. So obviously this lady seemed to forgot what happened to a guy named Jeffrey Epstein. I know, another controversial name that you're not supposed to say on YouTube. But yeah, there's a guy named Jeffrey Epstein. He was in a very maximum secure prison. Cameras on him, 2 security guards. But then somehow out of the blue, the power went out. Those 2 security guards were asleep. And then, oops. Somehow he was found dead. Suicide. But didn't add up. Of course, a lot of people are concerned about the safety of Julian Assange. Because what happened to Epstein could happen to Julian Assange too. I mean, come on. Let's not be stupid here. The U.S. prison system really doesn't have such a clean record. So let's be very clear here. Everyone, be they on the left or right, who's been in support of Julian Assange, has every right to be concerned about his safety as he is extradited to this country. And mind you, he's being put on trial on an antiquated law from World War I, and one of the worst sentences that he would be executed. And also spending 100 years behind bars. 100 years plus. We got another video from Case Study QB. I want to pull it up here as well, if we can, so let's play that.
Just into us here, London's High Court ruled moments ago that WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange can be extradited to the United States to face espionage charges. The decision overturns a ruling earlier this year that Assange could not be extradited due to his mental health. Assange faces 18 counts here in the U.S. after WikiLeaks released in 2010 troves of confidential United States military records and diplomatic cables. Joining us now from London, NBC News senior international correspondent Kier Simmons. Kier, good morning. It's good to see you. So what does this mean for Julian Assange now?
Hey, Willie. Well, Julian Assange's legal team is saying that they will appeal this appeal in the British High Court. I think it does mean, though, that it is much more likely that he will appear in a court there in the US, possibly as soon as next year. You know, Willie, there is so much history to the Julian Assange story now. You have the 250,000 diplomatic cables that were leaked by Julian Assange's Wikileaks. You have that engagement with the Russian military intelligence, the GRU, to leak those lurid conspiracy theories about the Democratic Party, about Hillary Clinton. You have those rape allegations in Sweden that were subsequently dropped. You have that period of time where he was holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy here in London. What is crucial about this extradition bid by the US is that the US is trying to see Julian Assange in court over charges of hacking, not leaking. So the charge is effectively that he worked with Chelsea Manning to try to hack Pentagon computers. Now, what this appeal battle is about whether US authorities can reassure British authorities that Julian Assange will be treated well enough in a US prison, whether they can rely on those assurances. Now, of course, Julian Assange's team and his fiancée, Stella Morris, say you can't. She's just put out a statement speaking outside the court. She says that this decision is dangerous and misguided, a grave miscarriage of justice. She goes on to say, how can it be?
All right, there's probably one more video to play in that, and we'll get it set up. But real quick, let's look at this picture. Julian Assange is at risk. His safety is at risk. And the fact that you have the media continuing to ignore the fact that, look, in 2016, there was election fraud that took place during the primary where Bernie Sanders just basically let his campaign basically get walked over by the Democratic establishment. And by the way, too, those allegations that were brought against Julian Assange were dropped because it turns out it was false. And by the way, the key witness for this case admitted that he lied. Julian Assange didn't commit any crime at all. He didn't hack. He didn't do anything to hack into the system of the Pentagon. He's a journalist. And mind you, WikiLeaks has never once had to retract the story. Outstanding for a news outlet. Let's continue on with the rest of the video if we can pull that up.
Fair. How can it be right? How can it be possible to extradite Julian to the very country which plotted to kill him? Now, that's referring to claims that they have made that the CIA during President Trump's time looked at the possibility of trying to kill Julian Assange. Look, as I say, this now makes it much more likely that Julian Assange will appear there in the US. I think you can't talk about this case without highlighting two things. One is that those diplomatic cables really shed a light on the Iraq and Afghanistan war. You remember, for example, those chilling images of Apache helicopter killing civilians in Iraq, including two Reuters journalists. You have to talk about that. And you also have to talk about Julian Assange's apparent vendetta against Hillary Clinton, which led him to engage with the Russians over those leaks. He is a very complex character. Again, though, this case is not about all that. It's about a very simple question of whether he can be treated fairly in a U.S. prison.
All right. NBC's Kier Simmons, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated as always.
All right. There's a lot more to talk about this story. But with Julian Assange being extradited, the fear is that independent media, free speech, is now put on the chopping block as well. We've seen firsthand how a lot of other independent media networks have been destroyed, shadow banned, silenced. And if this goes through fully, I do hope Julian's legal team is able to appeal this appeal. I am concerned about the future of a lot of our fellow colleagues here on YouTube, especially here in the United States too. All of the press is at risk because that means, similar to what Big Fossil was trying to do to Stephen Donziger, they're going to use Julian Assange as an example. So to all the corporate media outlets that continue to spin this story to favor their establishment owners, just know this: you will have to be very, very careful what stories you're going to have to talk about in the future. And by the way, again, Julian Assange, when he released those papers, especially the documents about all the war crimes taking place, it was happening under, good old Barack Obama's administration, a Democrat administration. Trump, congratulations, you were played like a fool. I know you don't give a damn, but you helped contribute to this end of free speech. So if you're a diehard Democratic voter or a diehard Republican voter and you like Barack Obama or Biden or Clinton, or if you're a Republican voter and you like Trump, congratulations. These individuals were more than happy to silence Julian Assange, to end free speech, because they don't care. And now, under a Democratic administration, good old Joe Biden, Assange is being extradited. I thought, hey, vote blue no matter who. What's your defense for free speech now, or free press? Because if this goes through, your nightmare, your real nightmare, will start to happen. We got another video. I want to pull it up as well. It's from Fiorella Isabel, if we can. If we can pull that up, if it's not there. Let's play this in its entirety.
100%.
We are all Julian Assange. Now, I want to pull up this article from Glenn Greenwald, who's been doing such fantastic work. And I urge everyone to read the article in its full entirety, but I want to just read the final paragraph. So if we can get to the bottom of it, I think it's important that we remember these words and what's happening. Because, again, Glenn Greenwald does a fantastic breakdown of this article. Be sure to check out his Substack. No matter the outcome of further proceedings in this case, today's rulings means that the U.S. has succeeded in ensuring that Assange remains in prison, hidden in silence into the foreseeable future. If they have not yet permanently broken him, they are undoubtedly close to doing so. His own physicians and family members have warned of this repeatedly. Citizens of the U.S. and subjects of the British Crown are inculcated from birth to believe that we are blessed to live under a benevolent, freedom-protecting government and that tyranny only resides in enemy states. Today's judicial approval by the UK High Court of the U.S. attack on core press freedom demonstrates yet again the fundamental lie at the heart of this mythology. Free speech is at risk. This is happening under a Democratic administration. Where are all the heavyweight progressives? Where are the major networks? Is TYT talking about this? Is Majority Report talking about this? Where's AOC and the rest of the progressive squad members? Where's Bernie Sanders? Where are all these champions who actually care about free speech? They're nowhere to be seen right now. What is happening right now to Julian Assange is a nightmare. And on all days, Humanitarian Day. I was hoping to report this story in a different light. I was hoping for hope that maybe somehow, out of the blue, maybe, and I held on to the audacity to hope that maybe Julian Assange would be freed. But no, the worst case has happened. And so it has come to pass. Julian Assange is being extradited to the United States. So if you are a Republican, independent, progressive, libertarian, green, socialist, you should be standing in solidarity with Julian Assange. Independent media, the press, free speech is right now being put on the proverbial chopping block. Julian Assange should be freed. He's been tortured enough. He's been punished enough. He should go home. And I can tell you this, he set a standard for all of us to follow. And sadly, right now, everything is resting on a thin line. But I'll still hold on to hope. Hope in the people. Because all of us cannot give up. We cannot back down. Just like how we're standing in solidarity with Donziger and Edward Snowden, we need to stand in solidarity with Julian Assange. So don't give up the fight. It's not over yet.